Okay. Well, a couple of weeks ago, Dan said, would you read one of my stories? I'm writing an autobiography. And I said, yeah, I don't mind. And so this evening he said, well, here's the story. And so I was sitting there proofing it, and he said, you gonna read it? I said, what? So this is the story. It must have been written in the 50s, and it's some memories from the Cold War days. And where does the Pentagon get its secret weapons? Okay. I've mentioned Asbury Park Airport, suitable only for single-engine planes. It had one grass strip, and if the wind blew across it, planes would simply take off and land across the field at a right angle to the strip. There was a small house with a control tower atop it for the business office and pilot passenger lounge. Passengers were those tourists who wanted to fly over the beach and boardwalk to sightsee in the summertime. There was a small duck pond in front of the house between it and the airstrip. I'd hang around as a kid and watch the planes, listen to the pilots talk, and hope in vain to be offered a ride. I would also be asked to hold the loop, which was to take a bamboo pole with a loop of rope and stand to one side of the landing strip, holding the rest of the loop, another person holding the rest of the loop using a pole, usually another kid who was hanging around. The loop of rope would be attached to an advertising banner laid out on the airstrip. The two-seater open cockpit banner towing biplane would pass at about 6 feet above the ground, trailing a 3-pronged steel grappling hook, which would grab the loop and thus hoist the banner aloft. I did that several times until the hook passed about a foot in front of my face. Never again. Later, after my Navy service, when I worked at EAI, which I don't know where that is.
Electronic Associates Incorporated in Oceanport, New Jersey.
Okay. I had a friend named Frank Antonides. He had decided to become a pilot. I met him at the airport in the pilot lounge. He asked a few pilots who might want to ride with him. None accepted. I wanted to see Asbury Park from the air, so I accepted. The day was beautiful, so clear that once we got up to a few hundred feet, we could see New York City, some 30 miles away, as clear as a bell. After we landed, Frank told me that he had soloed the day before, and that I'd been his first passenger.
Oh my God.
Then I understood why the pilots had declined. My funniest memory from that airport involved a craft that never left the ground. It was written up in the Asbury Park Press, however. The Pentagon was entering bids for, of all things, a flying submarine. A local man and his son entered their craft. It consisted of a fuselage made of steel barrels welded end to end. It had a plank where a wing would later be mounted. It had a 45 horsepower pusher aircraft engine mounted on a tripod and welded to the fuselage. At the time of the trial, it as yet also did not have a tail section. The whole thing was mounted on some sort of wheeled undercarriage, not retractable. The two inventors had been keeping the contraption in a padlocked shed at the airport. When they showed it that first day, they taxied it across the field. The airport manager would not permit it on the airstrip. When it hit a small bump in the field, the wing plank cracked and fell off. Undeterred, the inventor's son, who was the pilot, taxied the contraption to the edge of the duck pond. The inventor then placed a rubberized canvas apron over his son's head. The apron had a hole just large enough to allow his son's head to fit through. Then it was buckled and snapped onto the fuselage. A mask was placed over the pilot's face. A snorkel was put in his mouth. God. The snorkel was connected by a hose to an air tank standing on the edge of the pond. The inventor then pushed the contraption bearing his unfortunate son into the duck pond, where it promptly sank. Okay. After about 10 minutes, which seemed much longer to us spectators and probably an eternity to the pilot, we learned that the inventor had neglected to provide the contraption with ballast tanks. Non-functional pipes for future ballast tanks were attached to the fuselage barrels. It could not surface on its own. His son was trapped. The man waded into the pond, found some part of his contraption, attached a rope to it, and with his pickup truck hauled it and his fortunately still breathing son out. The inventors, bear in mind, this was near the height of the Cold War. People were building family bomb shelters. Public civil defense drills were being held. The inventor's concept was this: hundreds of his aircraft, once perfected, would be built. Volunteer pilots would man them. It was never explained how the pilots would be fed, warmed, etc. Each aircraft would carry one nuclear bomb. Upon signal, pilots would surface, take off. The craft had no pontoon or boat hull, and deliver their bombs. The USSR covered 6 time zones. It was the largest area country in the world. The aircraft range was never given. Okay, one more thing. The pilots had signed up for suicide missions. Okay. The press helpfully included an artist concept illustration that looked something like a flying ocean liner. The inventor permitted no photographs of his contraption, which he regarded as top secret. Okay, I guess the Pentagon did too, and so that's where they get their top secret.
Or did they buy it?
I don't know. What do you think?
I said, did they buy it?
Okay.
That's a true story. Thank you, Sarah Jane.
Yeah,
Next time I'll make it in bigger type.
okay. Next time you read it.